we live on it? Can anybody tell if we're live on here? 'Cause
It's where I'm supposed to be.
I don't
Right.
see. Somebody send me a message if you're picking us up. Deb, can you see on your phone if we're?
Says you're live. Yeah, I can see
It
it.
is? Okay. So I guess that we are live, so I don't know where the people's names are. So we can see some circles there. All right. Anyway, well, let's go ahead and get started for the great crowd we have tonight.
Reporter people are.
Are you recording?
Absolutely.
All right. So, we talked about the 8-step last week and the purpose of it, the use of it, and how we should do it. Now we're going to talk about the 9th step, which of course goes hand in hand. Go to page 77 in your book. And on the top of the page is an important message. It says, at the moment we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So that's what we're shooting for. That's our goal here. Now he has this in the 9th step for a reason. In order to be of maximum service to God and the people about us, we have to have cleared up our past. And that's what we're doing in the process here. The more amends I make, the more I could look the world in the eye. The more I can look the world in the eye, the more people I can be of service to. And that's the purpose of this, is to be of maximum service to God and all His people. Okay? Last week we did talk about the 2 types of direct amends: eyeball to eyeball and equal restitution. And we talked about the importance of making direct amends. The importance of making direct amends is to gain the humility that you can't get if you make indirect amends. So does anybody got a question on a type of amends that should or shouldn't be made, or something they work with their sponsees with or their sponsor with, and they're not sure what it should be? Because the book covers lots of different areas.
All right. So when I was younger, I was involved in an accident. It was raining. I was intoxicated. I wasn't paying attention, and a lady ran out in the road in front of me. And I wasn't able to stop. I hit her. She got pinned up under my truck, and she was in pretty bad shape. I pulled her out of the truck and held her until the ambulance got there. And she was also intoxicated, and she was so drunk you could smell the liquor in her blood on the street. They never gave me a sobriety test or anything. They just chalked it up as it was her fault. Now I have no idea who the lady was. She ended up being okay, I know that. But how do I make amends for that? Because I played a part in that.
Well, you don't know who she is,
Right.
and you don't know what happened to her or anything.
Well, like I for the next couple months, I had a friend that worked with her at McAllister's down in Norman, and she got back to work about 3 weeks later, and they said she was doing fine.
Okay.
So,
Well, something like that, the only thing you can do is living amends.
yeah.
You don't know. So the first thing you want to do is you want to stay sober, so you don't do that stuff no more. And I think that's the most important thing when we talk about amends. We should never make an amends until we're sure that that behavior has stopped with us, whatever that behavior is. So we don't want to make amends for stuff that we're still doing. even if it's only an occasion, even if it's only every once in a while. We don't want to make amends and still exhibit that behavior. So when we make amends, we want to make sure that we're absolutely sure that that behavior is not going to come from me no more. And then we make that type of, whatever the amends is. You know, it could be something little, it could be something great, or anywhere in between. The point is, we have to stop the behavior to make it a real amends. Besides apologizing and doing and you know, making things right to the best of your ability, more important than those things is to stop the behavior. So, and that happens a lot with people in relationships, or sex, really, you know. People go around and they use and abuse people, both men and women, you know. They use and abuse people in relationships, you know. They have, and then now they're sober, now they want to make amends, but they're still doing that behavior, you know. And that's not okay. You're not amending anything if you're still acting like that. You know, all you're doing is telling that person you're sorry, which doesn't hold much water if you're not, you know, if you're not sorry in your actions. Does that make sense? So that's the most important thing to me with making amends, is stop doing that shit. So anybody else have a different scenario, different type of amends?
What's your suggestion if the person you owe an amends to is passed?
Is dead?
Yeah.
So my mom and dad were both dead when I got sober. And I remember, my mom died April 11th, 1976. And I cried that day, and I never cried after that. So I never cried after that. And I got sober in 1991, and when I got sober, going through the steps, and I get to this point in the steps, and so I sat down and I wrote a letter to my mom. I wrote a letter to my dad and my grandmother too, and they were all buried in the same place, but my mom was the heavy one for me. And I wrote a letter to her, and I went to the cemetery, and I went to her grave, and I read the letter to her. And I'm going to tell you, just thinking about it all these years later, it chokes me up. I started bawling there. And something happened to me that day, something broke in me that ever since that day, I can see a commercial on TV and go, oh, that was a good commercial, you know. I can't stop that stuff from happening to me anymore, you know, where I just start, I read something, I start crying, you know. And I never cried all those years until I went and made amends to my mom, you know, and my dad and my grandma, they were all there, but well, I'll tell you, I broke down there. So, you know, and if that's possible, if that's not possible to go to where they're buried, if that's not possible, just go find yourself a little corner somewhere and, you know, just get down and just talk to them. Write it out first. You know, I like to write things out first so we get it right. And I need my sunglasses. But yeah, so that's all you can do. And again, the behavior needs to change. You know. So yeah, but that's something that we run across quite often. And does anybody online have a question about amends, different type of amends? Type it out for me here. So we're talking about making amends and different types of amends, and then questions about different types of amends if you have any. If you have any, besides the throwing water on people.
You asked me if I do have a question.
Yeah.
How about okay, so like my grandfather's passed. How does that happen?
Yeah.
So if you were on time, you would have heard how it happened.
Right.
But just for you, I'll repeat it. You write out what you're going to make amends for
Okay.
to your grandfather. And then, if possible, you go to his grave. If that's not possible, then just go find yourself a corner and sit down and talk to your grandfather. And read out your amends. You know. So, here's what we have to understand. The amends process is not to make anything okay out there. It's not to fix anything out there. It's not for the other people. It's much more of a selfish issue where it's for you. And because what the book says, we want to be of maximum service to God and the people about us, right? That can't happen when I have certain people that are still blocked out of my life because I don't want to see them, I don't want to make amends or something like that, you know. So we do all that we can. You know, we make that list that we have in the 8th step, and then we just start knocking it off. We knock it off by eyeball to eyeball. So if you can't actually see the person, you wait. And that's fine, so long as you are entirely ready to make the amends. If you're entirely ready to make the amends, then you make the amends, whenever it happens. When you're ready to and want to, God will make it happen. It may not be right away, but the time will come, and it'll be time for you to make the amends. And you need to be ready to do that. So here's a good one. Gossiping. Boy, we're all guilty of that, right? And the best thing to do with that is to not have conversations about a third party that isn't present. That's how you want to continue on with that one. Not have conversations about a third party that isn't present. But here's the thing with gossiping. So, if I'm going to talk to you three guys about Deb, right, and now I'm in my amends process, not only do I need to go to Deb and make amends, but I need to go to all three of you guys that I talked to about her. And I need to tell you, you know what I said about Deb wasn't right. It probably had to do with my low self-esteem or my issues, and it wasn't true, and I shouldn't have thought, and I'm sorry I made you part of that. So I said, I'm sorry I made you part of that. Let's talk about that for a minute, because some people will tell you in the rooms that we don't use the word sorry. And I'm sorry, but that's not true. You know, there's an old funny saying in the rooms that people say, we don't say you're sorry. Everybody knows how sorry you are. So we don't say sorry when we're making amends. Yeah, we do. If you sitting down with somebody that you care about, and you look them in the eye and you tell them, listen, I'm really sorry for what I've done. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, the book talks about it. I think they talk about it during the financial part. But anyway, it says we sit down with the people and let them know that we're sorry. Financial amends. Okay. Most of us have that too when we get here. I remember my sobriety early. I didn't even have any clue who these people were that I had ripped off over the years, and I remember somebody saying, these people want all my money, and the guy says, no, they don't want all your money, they want their money back. And that's what they want their money back. So when you go to make financial amends, you need to have money. And you shouldn't sit down with somebody and say, here's something on what I owe you, and I'm gonna give you this amount every week or every month, unless you can absolutely do that. So when you have to make a financial amends, it needs to be on a regular basis, and you need to keep up with it. And again, it's not, they don't want all your money, they just want their money back. And that's what the financial amends is about. And then there's always a question about amends when it comes to relationships. How honest do we get with our spouse or our partner? You know, so what does the step tell us?
Except for the injure ourselves or others.
Say what?
Except when it injures ourselves or others.
Make amends, direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So first rule is, you're not an other. Okay? You're not an other, so if it's going to cause you harm, too bad. But if it's going to cause them more harm, that's something to take into consideration. But you are not an other. So what do we do? If most of us have not been faithful to our partners, so what do? Do we tell them? And the book talks about this. We want to tell them that we haven't been faithful, but we don't need to tell them with who. And that's what they're going to want to know. Who was it? Who was she? Right? They're going to want to know. You can't just say, I screwed around. And this is where trouble gets you. You get yourself in trouble because you got to say, you can't tell on the other person. You know, might be her sister, might be someone you don't know. Doesn't matter. No, I got to get my side straight. I can't bring anybody else into this. I just want you to know that I haven't been faithful.
But what if that person is still, like you said, like if it's her sister and she's still coming, you're still around her? I mean, isn't that?
Well, see, the other people have nothing to do with this. The other people don't have anything to do with this. So if it is the sister and the sister's still around, that's between her and her sister and her and God. You know, I straighten out my part, you know, and if the sister feels the need to straighten out her part, then that's on her. So, you know, and if she does, it's going to be worse on you. My
Yeah,
fucking
but
sister.
you're not another.
Yeah, right. Not another. I never had that situation. So yeah, I mean, we get ourselves into some shit, don't we? You know. So yeah, but the idea is to make it right, but not at other people's expense. So we don't involve other people. And you know what? This is a good lesson to learn as we deal with life on life's terms today. I was just talking to a sponsor of mine a couple hours ago, and he was a little perturbed at work, and one guy's getting favoritism, so he was going to go in tomorrow and tell the boss that, you know, he needs to be more even-handed in the way he does things, and, you know, he was pissed off at the other guy. I said, no, that's not the way to do things. That's, first of all, there's a story in the book about a guy named Jim that had some words with the boss, right? So we don't go in and tell the boss how to do things. But you can go and tell the boss that how you feel, without mentioning the other person, without bringing the other person up, but tell them how you feel. I feel like I'm, you know, not getting a fair share of things. I'm being looked over. I'm, you know, I need overtime, you know. And then I tell them at the same time, start looking for another job. So, where do you learn that? You learn that in here as you go through the steps and you start making amends, and you leave other people out of the equation. It's not about them. And so it's a good lesson to bring into life on an everyday basis when you're dealing with things. not about the other people. If you have an issue, it's about the issue you have. The other people don't need to be brought into it. So, does all that make sense? All right, anybody have any questions? No? Any questions, any type of amends that the book talks about here? Talks about most people owe money.
Well, I don't know. One thing I was always thinking about when it comes to amends is how I used to, I would define I would determine whether or not an amends went well. You know, like if the question was, did that amends go well? Well, that was always determined by, did that person react favorably? You know,
Yeah,
was it a positive thing? Did it feel good?
yeah, and that's,
Or did
yeah.
they tell me to fuck off? You know, and it took many years to finally realize that that's kind of irrelevant,
Yeah,
you know.
it is
If the
irrelevant.
motive was correct,
That's right.
that's a good amends.
Yeah.
If my motive is not correct, that's not a good amends.
And you were honest,
Right,
you know, and you got everything out that you need to get out, and you stopped the behavior.
right.
That's what makes a successful amends.
One of my first amends I made to my father,
Uh-huh.
and it was basically for, you know, the lack of relationship that we had in my part. And he did not react favorably. He just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. And, you know, my feeling was, well, that's fucking typical. It's how you've always been, that's why we don't have a relationship, it's all your goddamn fault. But over the years, and Shannon shared this with me a long time ago, she was like, just concentrate on your behavior towards him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been several years now, but our relationship now is completely different than it ever has been. But he wanted to see the behavior change.
That's right.
That's all he wanted to see.
Yeah.
The words didn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I sponsored a guy a long time ago that had a daughter that wanted nothing to do with him. And she was already, when he got sober, I forgot, I want to say 19, 20 years old. And he went to make amends to her, and she didn't want to even be bothered. I'm not meeting you for nothing. I don't give a shit what you got to say. I don't want to hear it. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he said, now what do I do? I said, nothing. So I said, you still remember her birthday? He said, yeah. Send her a card on her birthday. Just say, happy birthday, thinking of you, Dad. Don't say anything else. He said, okay. I said, Christmas, send her a card. Merry Christmas, thinking of you, Dad. Nothing else. And I made sure he did that on her birthday, and I made sure he did that at Christmas. Nothing. And the next year, he's never heard back from her. Do it again this year, on her birthday and at Christmas. And I'm telling you, probably 5 years went by, and she finally responded to him. You know, and they met, they had lunch, and I haven't seen them in a while, but you know, last I know, they had a really good relationship. So, who knows when it happens, if it happens. That's not the point. See, again, we're not making amends to make anything okay. We're not making amends to make everything all right. We're making amends to clear up our side of the street. And in the process, we might reconnect with some people. In the process, we may be forgiven for some things from people. But it doesn't matter if we're forgiven or not. It doesn't matter if we reconnect with people. None of that stuff is relevant. The only relevant is, I've got this, that I could look this person in the eye today. And I'm not hiding or holding back anything anymore with this one person. And if I do that with 20 people, then, then I now become more available to be of maximum service to God and the people around me. And that's what the book says. That's the purpose of this. Don't forget that. That's very important. The purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Top of page 77. To fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So if you come in here and you've got issues with 100 different people, right? And after you've been sober for a year or so, you've made amends to 40 of them. You now have a bigger circle of people in your life. They may not be in your life, but they're in your life in the respect that you're not hiding from them no more. You and them, your path is clear. However they take it is that. So there's a broader circle of people around you. So what does that mean? If the book is telling me to be of maximum service to God and the people about us, well, that means at this point in my life, at this point in my sobriety, I am at maximum service. Now, I've still got 60 more people to go, and I need to get to them so I can really be of maximum service. But in the year that I've been sober, I've now cut it from 100 to 60. So my circle has broadened, and I'm making myself available to the maximum amount of people possible. Does that make sense? And that's the purpose of doing this, okay? All right. What else? Thank you. Just black, yeah. Or is that not politically correct? Just dark coffee.
I know it.
I'm not sure if that's black is politically correct anymore. I'll just have my coffee dark.
Okay, so one of the types that it talks about in here is criminal offenses.
Aha.
Here's your dark coffee.
Thank you.
So,
So, good question, Deb. So it talks about in here, bottom of page 78, perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts or unable to make good, but it gives you a couple of examples here, right? So what he's saying, although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any length to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given the strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We may lose our reputation, our position, or reputation, or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. Okay. So, I think, and I could very well be justifying for myself, but I think that they're talking about minor offenses here that you go to jail for and you do 30 days or you get out in 60 days or 90 days or 6 months or something like that, or a year. I think that's what he's talking about here. I don't think, so for me, and I don't have any problem with this, I have numerous things in my past that if I went and told the authorities about them, I'd be in life in prison with no chance of parole, and they'd throw the key away. And I didn't get sober. I didn't get sober to spend the rest of my life in prison. So of course I never did that.
How do you make amends for that?
Well, you make
About yourself.
some things you can't fix. Okay? Some things you can't fix. And so what you do with that is, first of course you stop doing that stuff. That's secondly, you make a living amends. If I did something to somebody, and because I did something to somebody, their family was screwed up financially because the provider is gone, right? So you anonymously give money to the family. You know, and I did those kind of things, but you know, there's just some things you just can't fix, and I'm a good example, I think, because I think I have, I think I'm a good representation of the 12-step program of recovery. I try to live that in my life, honestly, I do. And so I've dedicated my entire sobriety to helping other people, going out of my way and helping people. And I've dedicated my life to help people not even in the program. That if somebody needs help, I'm always there and willing to help. Okay, and that's not because I'm a nice guy, because I'm really not. You know, it says I've dedicated my life to do those kind of things, because there's some things I can't make right. You know, there's a few people that ain't walking this earth no more, and I can't make that right. And I don't have a problem with that today. You know, actually I never had a problem with that, but I mean, being sober, I don't think it has anything to do with detrimental to my sobriety. No, I'm just not willing to go to prison for the rest of my life. I don't see the, you know, where that would make sense. You know, and yeah, and I'm the one that would pay for it, but again, I didn't get sober to spend the rest of my life in prison. That's not why I did that. So, and I've had my sponsors say to me, you know, over the years, you know, you're much more useful out here than you are in there. Well, be that true or not, I don't know, but I need to try to live that way. You know, because I'm making a living amends, not for 10 years, not for 20 years, but every day. You know, forever. As long as I'm around, I'm making a living amends for some things that I could never right. You know, and I have to be okay with that, and I am. So, but you know, I've also sent money to families anonymously. I've made donations to causes that the people were affiliated with. I've done things like that. So, so if I was working with somebody and they had to make amends for something, they'd wind up in jail for a year, I'd tell them to do it. I'd tell them to do it, because I'd do it if it were me. I'd do it. If they were had to make amends for something that put them in prison for the rest of their life, I would tell them not to do it.
But in that same thing, it says injure them or others. If I went to jail for a year or whatever, I mean, I have children that I take care of.
Well, yeah, that would be injuring. That would be injuring your children. So it says them and others, but not you, right? So, but that's a valid point. If you went to prison for a year, your children would be you would be hurting your children. So I would tell you not to do that. It all depends on the circumstances and the case and the situation. But I would tell you not to do that. You know, and we find a way to make living amends for that kind of thing. So, I mean, I spent my whole life was crime, so I don't even know. If I went to the police, I don't even know where to begin to tell them. I have to sit down and tell my life story, you know. Because there's many things that, you know, I'm sure the statute of limitations are over on most of them. Look, I'm 29 years sober, so you know, I'm pretty sure I'm clear on most of the things except for the, you know, the worst ones. But anyway, you got to be willing to change your life. And I think that's the idea. I think that if I had the attitude that I could get away with things and I could do things and I don't have to live this program, you know, as diligently as I do, I think I would be in trouble then. You know, so I have to be extra diligent because there are things that I've never been able to make right. I can't, you know, if you ask my spouse, he might tell you differently. He might say, no, I think you made amends for that. I mean, to a degree, you can't, you know, you can't erase somebody from the dead, right? So, but barring that, and barring 20-year sentences and stuff, I would tell people to face the music. Actually, when I was 2 years sober, I share this when you hear my story, I was arrested. I had to fly. I had just moved over here, and I had to fly back to New York and surrender myself to the FBI. And long story short, I wound up, you know, getting I wound up getting a really good deal, but I was willing to go to prison then. It wasn't for murder, so I probably would have done 10 years, and I was willing. So I was ready to go. The judge didn't want me to, though. I caught a break, but I was willing to go. So, and the probation recommendation was 10 years. And the guidelines with the federal court was 12 years. So the probation officer, funny enough, the probation officer did my pre-sentence report was in AA. Isn't that something? And so he recommended 10 years, which was 2 years below the guidelines. And me being who I was, guidelines don't matter because the judge could go outside the guidelines and give me whatever he wants because of who I am or who I was. So, but even with outside the guidelines, it was still a 12-year sentence, and I was there, ready to do it. You know, I was actually pretty amazed that I got out of it. But I'm not, you know, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do 10 years, but I ain't willing to do life. That's not what I got sober for. So, all right. Well, what else? Anything else in here? There's all, you know, pretty much these pages from page 77 or 76, the bottom, all the way through to the bottom of 83 is all directions and examples of making amends.
My thoughts are, and it's not necessarily the person making, what wife is gonna let you get away with not telling who your had indiscretions? What wife is gonna let you get away with that?
What?
Not mine.
Right.
What?
What
wife?
wife or spouse or partner or whatever is gonna let you get away with not telling who you cheated with? I mean, how are you they're gonna insist on knowing.
Well, I kind of got lucky there because by that time my wife and I weren't together anymore, so she didn't give a shit. Plus, she knew anyway. But you see, here's how I lived my life. I was married. I had a girlfriend for many years, and I had other women I was dating, and I would be with hookers on a regular basis. So, I mean, shit. That was real normal for me. So in one day I could be with 2 or 3 different women. You know, certainly within a week I'd be with 2 or 3 or 4 different women. But I had my wife and my steady girlfriend. My wife had 2 kids and my girlfriend had 2 kids. They weren't mine, but you know, and it's just the way I lived. And I thought all that was okay. I shared that with you guys. You know, I thought that was, you know, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. I certainly couldn't do that shit now. I'm 62. I can't handle that shit. But I have no desire to live like that anymore either. That's different. So
did you go, after you were divorced, you went and made that amends even though she was your ex?
no. Well, here's what happened with my ex-wife. I think I shared this with you guys. If not, I'll share it with you now. When it was time to make all the amends, right? I called her up and I told her I needed to sit down with her and talk to her. She said, that ain't happening. Now, here's the weird thing, right? Her and I would talk on the phone a couple times a month. We talk. It was about the kids, who were big, but we talk about the kids. So we talk, and she just wouldn't meet with me. So for the first probably 18 years I was sober, I saw her 2 times. Talked to her a million times. I saw her 2 times at both of my daughter's weddings. And I wasn't going to trap her in the corner in that setting and make my amends to her. But I told her I needed to make amends to it. You don't need to do that. You're fine. We're okay. And I said, I really need to make amends to you. We don't need to. Right? So after trying for many, many times, my sponsor said, go ahead, write her a letter. And I'm talking about 4 or 5 years. Trying for 4 or 5 years to make amends to her. She wouldn't let me. And that's when I really learned that, like I said already, you don't have to make amends. You just have to become willing to. So after about 4 or 5 years, my sponsor said, just write her a friggin' letter. So I sat down and I wrote her like a 3 or 4 page letter by hand. Poured my heart out into this letter, right? Because her and I, we grew up in the same neighborhood. We were childhood sweethearts. We went out. We were 13 and 14. We were dating. We were 17 and 18. We were married and had kids. So we were together 20 years. So I poured my heart out into this letter. Gave it to my daughter Angela. I said, Ange, give this to your mother. Angela came back. She said, here, Dad. I said, what happened? She said, as soon as I went to hand it to Mommy, she said, is that from your father? Angela said, yes. She said, oh, hell no, I know what kind of writer he is. I don't want to read that. She wouldn't even take the letter. So, maybe once a year I'd talk to her. I talked to her many times, but maybe once a year I'd say to her, I really got to sit down with you and make amends. No. So let me tell you, when she finally let me make amends, I think I'm going to be 29 this year. I think I was 25 years sober. And we were at a party, and she'd been remarried, and her husband and I actually get along and everything. And we were just sitting there bullshitting. And he got up to get something, and I said, man, I said, all these years I've been trying to make fucking amends to you. Hey, can't you give me 5 minutes? And she said, all right. So when her husband came back, I said, we need 5 minutes. And he said, okay. And I sat down and made amends. It was 25 years later. 25 years later, I crossed her off my list.
Did it only take you 5 minutes?
It took me 10. After all that time, I really didn't remember everything that I did. I just knew I was a huge fuck up, I was a street guy, even when I was a kid and a street guy, So you can imagine, right?
Then how do you deal with somebody that's not gonna let you leave that other person out of it?
Well, so this is why it's important to write down what you're going to say on the back of your card, your index card, and talk about it with your sponsor so you're prepared. So when you go there, that's a good question. She asked, what if you're dealing with somebody that won't let you not mention who the other person was that you were with? So you have to be prepared. So you write down what you're going to say, what you're making amends for, and what you're going to say. And then you talk with your sponsor and you go over it. Like, what if she or he insists that they want to know who it was that I had an affair with? What if they insist? And how are you going to handle that? And the best way to handle that is just say, listen, I'm really, really sorry. I'm not trying to make things worse here. I'm here because I need to clean up my side of the street, but I'm not allowed to bring another person into the conversation. And I can't do it. I understand you may think it's important, but I can't do that. You know? And you just gotta be sincere with them. You can't give the other person up. It's not your place to clear your head at somebody else's expense. And so you just gotta stick to your guns as nice and politely as you can be. It may make things worse. But if you're prepared, if you've rehearsed it with your sponsor, because if you know the person you're gonna make amends to, you know they're gonna try to nail you to, you gotta rehearse that. You role play it. And this way when you go there, you sit down with them, you're prepared. You know, it's like anything else, right? It's like a lawyer goes into court at trial, defending somebody. If they're not prepared, the guy's going to prison. If they're prepared, they can, boom, jump on anything that the other guy says and correct it or make their points because they're prepared. And anything, you know. If you're a carpenter and you're going on a job to build a house, if you ain't got your tools and you're not prepared, you can't do shit. So you have to be prepared. You have to practice, you have to be prepared, and you got to know what you're going through. So, but yeah, that's a valid question, and it's not easy. Anybody tells you it's easy, they've never done it. You know, I think by the time I did it with my wife, I was 25 years sober. We were divorced for 24 years, not together for 26 years. You know, it was quite easy. You know, tell her. You know, and I don't even remember who. You know, listen, I don't even know how many women I fucked when I was married to you. There were a lot of them, on a daily, weekly basis for sure.
Did she say, I know?
Yeah. Yeah. She said, I know, I don't even want to hear that stuff. So, yeah. You know, I mean, I know with my wife and I that if it wasn't for me, we'd still be together. You know, if it weren't for me. You know. So, I got nothing for love for her today, you know. But I'm always joking with her now, you know. You're too old for me. See, you're younger than me. She still looks good though. You're too old for me. So, yeah. I mean, we create a lot of shit, so we got a lot of shit to clean up when we get sober. Who else? What else got a question there? We got 10 minutes. What I'm going to do, I forgot to tell you, and you people listening too. Next week we're going to be back at the Western Club. And it's going to be 6:30.
6:30.
So next week's going to be 6:30 at the Western Club. Okay? And don't miss next week because I got something real important to go through that's going to be a game changer for you with your recovery. I promise you I'm going to teach you something next week that's going to blow your socks. So. But what else you want to talk about tonight?
This probably seems like a no-brainer for most people. For me, it wasn't in the beginning. And we say this all the time, but I think the 9th step is one of those steps where it's really, really important to not try to do this when you're not there yet. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I came in, I just started working with Shannon. Don't even really think, I don't remember exactly, but I'm thinking of somewhere around step 2 or 3. And my ex was, you know, calling every day, texting every day, said, hey, you know what? She read the steps apparently. I was like, what about these amends that you're gonna be making? You there yet? No, not there yet. Shannon said no, not there yet, and every day. So you're there yet now? It's been a week. So I did. I was like, fine, okay.
Yeah.
I'll go over there, and it was horrid.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Yeah, you have to, the steps are done in order.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's kind of a natural tendency that when we get sober, we want to tell everybody how sorry we are, and look how good I'm doing now, and I'm not going to do that no more, and and you're not even aware of the behavior yet,
Right.
because it's gonna take the previous steps to teach you what the behavior is.
Because I went over there
Yeah,
thinking that I was, you know, that I'm just gonna set all this right, this bitch on my back, you know? And, I had my list of things that I needed to make amends to her for, and she had her own list of things that I needed to make amends to her for. And her list was a lot longer than mine. But, yeah, it was awful.
yeah. Well, that's, you know,
Sorry about that.
but that's valid too, because when we make amends now, we wanna ask the people, you know, is there anything I don't remember that I did that I didn't bring up, you know? What else is there? Is there anything else? And how can I make this right?
And it was, you know, that even though it turned into something that it shouldn't have turned into, that part of it was helpful.
Yeah.
You know, when I was there.
Yeah.
I was able to do that. So,
Yeah, we don't wanna go there on step 2 and start making amends to people. It's not gonna help, you know? The process is one after the other. So, but this is, you know, this, like any other step, is an important process that you have to do it, and you have to do it right. So, and you have to know why you're there. And how many of us at step 2 are really ready to stop the behavior? Probably not many of us, you know.
to your point, we don't even really know what the behavior is.
Right. That's why you're not ready to stop it. You're not sure what it is. So this process, right? I got to gather this information, right? And I already know way more than I'm willing to do in life. I got more information in my head than I'm ever going to be willing to do. But the process of this recovery is that we get to know who we were, who we are, and who we want to be in recovery. And that's a pretty cool process. You know, we get to create whoever we want to be. We get to make our own life the way, however we want it to be. So, who else? Anybody else got a question? Any questions online there? Because we're going to quit a little bit early again tonight. And next week, don't mix. I'm going to teach you something next week that not many people are aware of that will definitely help you. Anybody got any other questions? No? Going once? Twice? Sold. Don't miss next week. Very important. Gather all the troops next week.
Talk about that. Actually, nothing.